to the club, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna pin us so we can be pin sisters here. Pin.
Thank you.
I want
Ah,
to pin you.
yes.
And me too. Wait, how does this work? Add a pin. Add a pin. There we are.
Well, has
Yay!
Melissa, yeah, she's figuring this out. Let's all take a deep breath.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chantal. So everybody, I'm so excited to have my friend Chantal here with us today. Um, One of the things that we talk about probably every single time I do a Freedom Friday is this idea that there are no accidents, that everything happens for a reason, and that everything is happening for our highest good. So, one of my friends roped me into doing a really lovely online retreat that, what was it, Chantal, like 1,800 women were part of
Yep.
that online, like live on Zoom retreat. So
Yep.
you're in this crew and you're like, all these beautiful women from all over the world. And then every once in a while they pop you into breakout rooms. And I very first breakout room, I was with two women, and one of them was Chantal. And the moment she started speaking, I actually thought that you were, I don't know if I ever told you this, I thought you were part of the retreat. Like I thought you were one of the coaches. It was like, oh, okay, she's in charge. All right, I'm gonna listen to what she has to say. And then after the call, I'm like, oh, she's in this with me too. But truly, I have learned so much from you in this short time that we've known each other. And it's in terms of expanding my whole practice into this online world. And I, without further ado, what really excites me about this connection that I made with Chantal, beyond the fact that it's, elevated my practice to a new level, is what her background is all about. So Chantal is a transformational coach, and she is helping to guide women through and beyond their journey with breast cancer. So, without me getting too much into all the other things that I want to talk about, I really would love to hand it over to you to speak about your approach.
Hey, thanks, Melissa.
Yeah.
So, whoever's listening, just look at Melissa when she's talking, because that is what I saw when I first saw Melissa. I saw a lot of light around you, and I saw a lot of joy and life force. And that's what connected me to you. So I just have to tell you, whoever wants to hear this, that Melissa is a very special person and a healer. And I'm very grateful to be here today. So thank you for having me. And that connection to breast cancer, I mean, when I mentioned that, most women will either have a stare, a blank stare look on their face when they look at me because they don't really want to hear it, which I completely can relate, because until I had to walk through that journey, I did not know that actually I didn't know what it meant. I had been exposed to, I was the owner of a studio, a mind body healing center and a yoga center, dance center. So for many years. And I remember at some point listening to one of our teachers who had gone through that journey herself. And she had created a foundation where she was helping women receive alternative treatments on their breast cancer journey. So people could apply to get some money to get reimbursed for those treatments. So she was well known in the community. And one woman, when they walked in, as she ended her class and wanted to talk to her, and she had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember sitting there being in awe and listening intently and being in awe to the fact that she had gone through a double mastectomy, radiation, chemotherapy. And I remember back then having seen her going through that, and I was really scared, of course. And I was listening to her talking to this other women and really helping her through the journey, like asking a very specific question, not dropping into, I want to say, the drama of it, but having a lot of heart for this woman and saying, please tell me about where you are, what kind of diagnosis you have, um, what is the prognosis, that kind of thing. So I remember listening to this and saying, wow, that's amazing that she can be so grounded and at the same time have these very specific questions and try to support her in the process. Now, fast forward many years later, it was my turn. And this was 7 years ago. I had my first diagnosis of breast cancer. And I remember, and I'm saying first because I had a second one. So I'm going to get to this in a second. But the first one, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And deer in a headlight and a lot of fear, incredible amount of fear. Um, I think it's beyond fear. I've spoken to other women that have gone through the same thing. It's like an anxiety that cannot be named. It takes over, it floods, it's just fear of death. I mean, that's what I think it is. So the first diagnosis I had, I was in the middle of separating of my husband of 23 years. And we own a business together. So I was not only losing a marriage of that long, but also losing my livelihood, losing my community. This was the center that I just referred to. And I also was living here in the US when I was born and raised in Montreal. So I'm Canadian and I'm also American. I have dual citizenship at this point. So all of a sudden my world collapsed. And then 3 weeks later, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So that is an intense journey to go through. It's like trial by fire. And I went through it determined. I was very strong physically, very healthy. My entire life I have spent eating really good food, organic food, and exercising, doing yoga, meditation. So it was kind of a shock to me to have that diagnosis. But at the same time, I knew my body was strong enough. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it through, even though it was really scared. And I did. I made it through. And I went back, rebuilt my life, went back to school, got certified. Graduated in social work. It's something that I really wanted to do. Went through a very lengthy divorce, took 3 years to get through this one and finalize it. So when I graduated, 3 days later, the divorce was pronounced final. And then I got a job in my field 3 weeks later. And then I decided to get certified. I'm not certified, but licensed. I applied, I studied and went for the license. Now I'm saying all this because this is like a big chunk of life and many, many transformations, many transitions. And I also was afraid, I wasn't sure that I could stand on my own financially and have my own house. So I had to have that whole thing, get a mortgage, blah, 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 stand on my own. All of this happens, right? So I finally have arrived. I passed the national exam. And then I have a fever for 3 days. And then I'm thinking, okay, it's stress. I call my doctor. She says, no, I think it's just stress. You went through a lot, blah, blah, blah. Now, mind you, COVID just started. So the word fever at that point has a lot more meaning than just you're stressed out. My doctor doesn't make a big case out of it. 2 weeks later, the fever comes back. And now I know that something is not right. So I get tested at that point. We're starting to ramp up COVID. And they basically, on my job, put me on hold and get me tested for COVID. The test comes out negative, but they send me for an X-ray, a long X-ray. And then in that moment, it is clear that something is wrong in my chest and it's not my lungs. So because it's COVID at that moment, there's no answer. It takes 5 weeks for me to get the diagnosis. So I had to live for 5 weeks by myself. Everything's shut down and just really feel the fear of not knowing what kind of cancer I have, because my doctor said it is cancer. We just don't know which one. And then I have to get through the whole getting the biopsy, getting the right diagnosis, seeing the oncologist, all that stuff. So I basically was diagnosed for the second time after that. And of course, COVID started and all this angst about being exposed to a virus that could kill you for me was real. It was already happening. So I'm saying all this because it's an intense journey to go through. And I know that I'm not the only woman going through it. And I also know that I'm here telling you today this story, which is now we're fast forwarding a year and a half later almost, and I'm still here. So it became clear to me that there's a reason why I'm going through this, not just for me personally, as in this is a soul transformation, not just a body healing process, but it is really I contracted somehow along the way, and that's my belief, to grow deeper, to grow wider, to grow bigger into who I am by going through this. This is trial by fire. And I also know, because I have been a coach since 1997, I am a mind-body psychotherapist. I am also a movement therapist, art therapist, and a yoga teacher. And we can go down the list, but I'm going to stop right here. That I have been given tools, a lot of tools to help people navigate through a healing journey. And I call it a body breakdown that turns into a life breakthrough.
Mm.
So that's my story. I know. Thanks for listening.
Wow. That's so powerful. Yeah, it's amazing how how we set ourselves up. Whether your journey is one with breast cancer or something else that you take on at some point in life, and it's like, wow, to have all those skills, to have all that preparation to get you to this point. You don't always know what you're preparing yourself for, but it's part of the journey. It's part of that higher level, that soul level journey that you were getting ready for this point. I'm super excited because you have an event that starts tomorrow. So I'd love to get a little sneak preview of what that's going to be about.
Right. So it's basically inviting women women are joining me to a 3-day journey, 1 hour every day from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. And so we're addressing the concept of fear, because when fear is there, we lose perspective, where basically our brain is being hijacked. So it's really important to have tools and practices that disengage what I call the fear factor and really connects us to faith. So that's day number 1. Day number 2 is about, and I think that's you and I connecting there, is really tuning in and listening to what you call the healer within. And on my journey from first to second diagnosis, I've always relied and really connected to that principle. And I basically found my own way through the maze of possibilities, opinions, suggestions, whatever, fear. It's important to hear something deeper than just the mind. And that's every person's healing journey is their journey. And we can have a team of awesome healers like you around us. And at the end of the day, we are the one making the decision. Decisions have power. When we say yes to something, we call in the resources of human beings around us, but also the universe. So that's day number 2. How do we connect that? And our heart is really the guiding principle. In yoga, it's called the heart chakra, the heart center. And I really do believe that that's where deep wisdom and healing happens. And on day number 3, we really talk about mapping out a plan. And it's not a plan that is only mind related. It's really a plan that has to do with traditional and non-traditional healing practices. And now, why I say the mind and the plan are connected but not fully is that this is a journey. That's why it's called navigating navigating through breast cancer, your healing journey through breast cancer, because it's a healing journey. A journey is you start, you have an intention, you have a point of departure, and you have an arrival, but in between things do change. So how do we navigate between knowing where we start and knowing where we want to go? But the where we want to go is really important. Saying yes to life. And that's my thing. The diagnosis that I was given could have had me turn over, literally lay down on my back, turn my belly up and give up. And yet I have not. So that has a lot of power. I'm mobilizing and I'm inviting women to do the same thing. A breast cancer is not a death sentence.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm inviting women to do, is join me in that journey.
Right. And that's one of the things that has always grabbed me about you, is like, before I even knew your personal story with this experience, is like, wow. like that's what gravitates us to each other. I'm like, she's just like, she's taking it on. Like, let's do this. And I love that. I love that because that kind of energy, I mean, that's what is life for? Is it to like, yeah, whatever? No, it's about really diving in to the experience, all of it, all of it, all of it. And when we have these kinds of intense challenges, especially at the level of a diagnosis of breast cancer, it is like a huge call to action.
Mhm.
And I mean, those of you who have listened and have been tuning in with Wellness Lies Within, you can hear how parallel, how complementary, how synchronous, the angles, the way she talks about the heart. Absolutely. That's been a huge focus. Here we are in summer. It's the season of our heart. All about that portal to spirit. That's where the intuitive wisdom, that's where we connect. And that idea, like, it's not like, well, we still need this to function, but it's learning how to build that connection between head and heart. I like to think of it as being almost like a figure of eight connection. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, yes. So leading from that space.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. So one of the things that, as we've been talking back and forth, supporting each other, that Chantal and I have been talking about is the possibility, not the possibility, it's going to happen in the fall of us doing a collaboration. So yeah, so we'll see how that's all going to evolve, but knowing that piece that she mentioned that she can weave in, so addressing things through the level of heart and emotion. And actually, would you be willing to talk, like, even just a little bit briefly about what you had shared with us about the chakras and the journey that you like to guide your patients through?
Yes. So another part of my background is in training in energy medicine, and I have been trained by a woman who's a medical intuitive. So there's this central pillar from the tailbone all the way to the crown of the head, but it doesn't end there. That is called the central channel. So it's basically us connecting to the earth and connecting to the heaven or the sky. And it's really us being connected and being a channel for that energy to flow through. So I know Melissa is an incredible healer and an acupuncturist. So when we start thinking about ourselves in terms of energy medicine, we're no longer just a set of organs and bones and blood and skin and all that. And so like, a sum of its part, but we are a whole being that actually resonate on an energetic level. Now, if we've had trauma, which is my background, I've had trauma in my childhood. It's called adverse childhood experiences. Those center of energy, the soul is very intelligent in its maneuvering us through life. It will literally take itself off center and move either sideways, back, or forward energetically. And those lines of energy, those circles, these chakras, they spin in a certain way. They have a different direction depending on which one it is. And when they spin in harmony, there's a lot of energy that we can maneuver through our body and heal. Now, if we have trauma, if anything has happened, and trauma doesn't have to be just emotional, it could be physical trauma, it could be an accident, something. Those centers of energy are actually off balance, and sometimes they leak. I see it like electrical cords that are leaking from the current reality to the past. So we're hooked up into the past, and our centers don't have full access to all of the energy that we can have. So that's what explains illness. I mean, a lot of books have been written from Carolyn Mace on this, energy anatomy, and other people that are basically connecting, the health, the physical health, emotional health to the chakras. But the whole idea is that we're not fully into our energy system. And so when we start healing, when we have an illness, it's really literally that there's a center that is not fully charged energetically. Now, breast cancer is in the heart center, and it has to do with the love, human love, the love that we've received, nurturing, motherhood, being loved unconditionally, and being able to do that for ourselves. So when I talk about adverse childhood experiences, I'm not saying we have to dwell on the past. We have to go back and kind of get stuck in the past, but it's almost like the child within that did not have full acceptance, compassion, kindness, from the parents or the caregivers. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that people cannot give what they did not receive. But the point is, we have basically a deficiency here. So at some point in our life, we have to, I say, grow up and start doing for ourselves what wasn't done or given to us. So that's the energy center. There's an emotional component to each energy center. So when we start looking back and calling back our spirit, literally calling our soul back into this moment, we're asking the higher part of us, the higher self, the heart, to guide a journey of coming back home and every center of energy. Oh, that's my dog calling. So that's really what we need to do, is just have that connection between past and current reality and bring a lot of compassion, healing, and a team of people like you, Melissa, that basically help also rebalance the energetic components, because I can't do it all by myself in my own mind. I need other people. Like, I have a team of people working with me on this. So does that answer your question? It's a long answer.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. I think that gives everyone a beautiful taste. So, I speak about the meridian system, but what she speaks about the chakra system, those are completely interconnected, interwoven.
Yeah, they are.
So
Yeah.
one of the really exciting pieces that we can bring in collaboration in this fall is through Qigong. So you guys have heard me speak about that before. Qigong, Chinese energy exercise, is about moving the energy through the meridian system, which is also connected in alignment with the chakra system, to create that energy flow. So there's a specific practice that I will teach through these sessions.
Right back.
Oh, go ahead. It's called breast health Qigong. So energetically, we have meridian lines. She talked about the heart chakra, and then there are the meridian lines that run through the breast, the liver, the kidney, and the stomach. So the Qigong energy exercises are specifically guided to help open up the energy in those systems. And for those of you who joined me in my event a couple of weeks ago, about the immune health, we got an introduction to those three different systems, the liver, the kidney, and the stomach. And, we got a lot of layers and a lot of levels. So you've got that energy level that we just need the energy to flow. But in order for that energy to flow, there's the physical level, but there's also the emotional and the spiritual level. So we'll be tying all of that in together in collaboration. So thank you so much for joining me. This was awesome. So excited to join your event starting tomorrow, and I'll make sure to post again so you guys can join as well. It will be a Facebook Live, and
it will be both Zoom and Facebook, the same way you do it here. Yeah.
Yes, Zoom and Facebook, just like we did today. So for those, well, those of you who are seeing this is on Facebook. But anyway, anyone who would prefer to do by Zoom, you can get the Zoom link from Chantal as well. So thank you.
Melissa, I want to thank you for having me over today. You will be on my page as well. So please, yes. And whoever works with you, whoever is listening to this, please do engage with Melissa. She is your partner in healing. I was there when she did her 5 days, and the wealth of knowledge that she's got to share, I say grab it on, because this woman at some point is going to be really busy and maybe not so available. So I said, for now, if you listen to her and you really click on, just go for it. Do it. Don't miss that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Have a wonderful day.
Have a good day. Bye, everybody.